the kingdom. Now, it is our hope today's message will cause a change in your life, that you will bring forth fruit for the kingdom in your community and the world. Let's join in the service.
Happy Father's Day. Isn't it good to know that we serve an awesome Father and that He has blessed us with such awesome earthly fathers? Our Father is so worthy to be praised and to be adored. And so this morning, come on and bless the Lord with me. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. God, we worship and we bless you. And we bring you the sacrifice of praise with the fruit of our lips. Hallelujah. Yeah. Woo. Come on, if you're at home, put your hands together. Now, if you're driving, keep driving. Hey. Yes. Oh, I was glad when they said unto me. Yes, I was glad when they said unto me. I was glad when they said unto me, come, let us go into the house of the Lord. Oh, I got happy when they said unto me. Yes, I got happy when they said unto me. I got happy when they said unto me, come, let us go into the house of the Lord. Then I came running when they said unto me. Yes, I got running when they said unto me. I came running when they said unto me, come, let us go into the house of the Lord. Come on, hey! Yeah! Yeah! Oh! Come on, let's give God praise. Let's praise the name of Jesus. Praise the name of Jesus. He's my rock. Hey, He's my fortress. He's my deliverer. In Him will I trust. Let's praise the name of Jesus. Come on, let's praise the name of Jesus. Praise the name of Jesus. He's my rock. He's my fortress. He's my deliverer. In Him will I trust. Let's praise the name of Jesus. Come on. Hey. Yay. God, you're worthy. God, you're awesome. Yeah. Come on, one more. Hey, what a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Hey, angels bow before Him. Heaven and earth adore Him. What a mighty God we serve. Hey, what a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Come on. Angels bow before Him. Heaven and earth adore Him. What a mighty God we serve. Hey, oh, I was glad when they said unto me. Yes, I was glad when they said unto me. I was glad when they said unto me, come, let us go into the house of the Lord. Hallelujah. Hey. Hey. God, we bless you. God, we honor you. Hallelujah. Woo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. God, we bless you. You are a wonderful and awesome and a faithful Father to us. We came to sing our best worship to you. came to show our love to you because you are so worthy. And it's in your house that we bless your name. Your house, God. We give you glory, God. We give you honor, God. We lift high your righteous name. No other name like your name, God. You are so worthy, and we love you, and we bless your name. Our Father, you are holy. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, you are holy. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, you are worthy. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, the ultimate Father, you are holy. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, hey, you are so holy, and we give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, hey, you are holy. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, you are holy, and we give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, you are so holy. Yes, you are. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Our Father, you are so holy. We give you glory, and we bless your name. Yeah. Hey, and we give you glory, and we bless your name. Your name, your holy and your righteous name. We give you glory, and we bless your name. We worship you, God.
By the way, we interrupt this normal Sunday service so that we can bring you this special Father's Day program, Fatherhood, a conversation.
Greetings. My name is Charles Douglas Gooden Jr. Thank you very much for joining us for our roundtable called Fatherhood, a Conversation. #FatherTogether. The purpose of this conversation is to have an open and honest exchange of ideas on fatherhood in the 21st century church. All right, we are with our first guest, Dr. Ivory L. Varner, Senior Pastor and Teacher here at Bible Way Fellowship Baptist Church. Dr. Varner has been the pastor of this church for 41 years, and he has been married to Sister Mary Varner for 47 years. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Outstanding. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, and just give us some insight on you.
Overall, I've got a great perspective on life. I'm excited about living. Don't know when it's going to end, but I'm going to be able to look back and say, oh, but didn't I have a good ride?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I had a front row seat. Because when you run up on some of this stuff,
right,
you say, I wish I was in the back seat. But no, I got a front row seat.
Yes, sir.
On church, a front row seat. On marriage, got a front row seat. On parenting, yes, and then the balance. Mm-hmm. I guess the greatest thing I can say is that I'm enjoying my relationship that's vertical more now, and now I'm able more to enjoy my horizontal relationship.
Right.
Vertical, God and I. Horizontal, family.
Right.
And when children move out, now it's just you and your wife, so now you get a chance to catch up on some relationship building that you just didn't have during that time. And nor did you have the wisdom. You know, you just don't know everything. True. And what I've got to do, because I'm more hard on myself than on anybody else, so I'm always, in a sense, beating myself up. Why can you do that better? You know, why would it not have turned out better if you did this and this and this?
Right.
But I only work with the data I have in front of me.
Right.
I cannot work with the data that I was expected to have and didn't have. Mm-hmm. But now it is what it is, and I'm okay with it.
And that data that you get is, we call that wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So you once you get that, you can apply it to
Yes,
the next
sir.
situation.
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you about your family, your children,
Mm-hmm.
Your grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Give us the roster of everybody who's there.
Okay. One wife, 2 kids, right, in that order.
Right.
Okay, and it's a, you think you know them, mm-hmm, but you really don't, mm-hmm, because you don't know how God wired them. But as you see them make decisions and make choices, mm-hmm, then you try to govern yourself because you know the target.
Right.
If you have any idea of what God expects of individuals, period, you know the idea. So my oldest child, Tina Nicole Varner.
Yes, sir.
And basically she's been what she be. I mean, she's a child. She's a female. She has her choices and her opinions. Mm-hmm. And look like the older they get, the more opinions they have. I guess they just weren't allowed to talk about them when I guess they had them then, but just weren't allowed to talk about them.
Yes, sir.
So now, and a great daughter. I wouldn't, right, trade her for nothing.
Right. And
then my son came later, 5 years later. Mm-hmm. He's a different breed. Mm-hmm. He's a different breed.
And we know his name, but what's his name?
Oh, his name is Ivory Lamont Varner.
Okay.
My name is Ivory Leon Varner.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we got the same initials.
Okay. Okay.
So he'll get to sit in on all my wealth by just putting the initials.
Okay. That's all he has to worry about, the junior, all that.
Yeah.
He just put the initials. Okay.
And basically, you know, he had his ups and downs, but basically, we've had pretty well obedient children. They didn't just nut up and go crazy. You know, never had to put one out, never had to discipline anyone severely. So it's okay. I'm quite proud of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what I've learned is don't try to make one like the other, because they're not the same. Every mold is different, and you learn them. And when you learn them, you learn how to work with them Because again, like I say, if you got that target in mind, I'm trying to get them to that target. So they may swing way over here, but you got to have enough love and patience to swing them back in line. They may swing way over here, but you got to bring them back in line. And keep them moving forward and not going backwards.
Right.
So, so it's been great. I think I'm married to the greatest woman in the world.
Yes, sir.
I didn't think that so when we were younger, because she is a very independent person.
Of course.
And I think I've always been her pastor. I think I'm more of a pastor than I am her husband.
Okay.
And I say that in the sense of when she doesn't trust me, she can't trust the word.
Okay.
Okay, so if the Bible says this, she believes it. And so now we move quite well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You mentioned something very very interesting. You talked about you have 2 children, same house, same parents,
Yes.
but they're 2 totally different people.
Totally different.
Right? And in your sermons, you've often said that when we're born, right, our personalities are here. Right? We're 100% human. So those differences have been there since birth.
Right.
So, and one of the challenges I'll have with my own children, I have 2, they will get a little upset with me if I parent one different than the other.
Right.
But they're 2 different people, so it takes 2 different approaches.
Right.
Can you talk about how you and Sister Varner manage that, learning the personalities and how to parent 2 different people, effectively, sticking with the same values?
We adapt. What has helped us to adapt quicker is what God said about the situation.
Fair enough.
And what I'm saying is, you see human beings in the Bible, not perfect human beings, and you see the consequences of treating one child above another. And so we try to learn quickly and pattern our lives after that, so we don't have to make the same mistake as long as they made that mistake, and then live with those consequences. So I don't think any of my children could ever say that we favor one above the other. I think they understood they were different, so therefore we treat them different.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely not unfairly. It's just different.
It's just different because one is 5 years older than the other.
Right.
And so now we are moving to my retirement, and it looked like I'm going to be in pretty good health. So now the question is, the scripture says, have inheritance for your children and then your grandchildren and that kind of thing. But what I'm watching is the wisdom. I need to see the wisdom. I need to see that if I put all in your hand, you got wisdom to handle it. So that's what we do.
And legacy is something that's very important, right? My father and I, we have the same name, and I named my son Charles III, right? But I told him, you don't have to name, whenever that comes, you don't have to name your son Charles IV, right?
Yeah.
But there is a legacy of Christian manhood, servant leadership that I was taught, that I'm teaching him and my daughter, right? And so that's what I want our legacy to be. That has to continue on. So talk a little bit about in the next 100 years, right? What do you want people to say about what you left through your children? What would you want your legacy to be?
I have a personal goal. My goal is to finish well.
Yes, sir.
I'm not looking for no major glitch to where you're running well and look like you stumbled and fell. What happened? So I have to, by the way, I distrust myself.
Fair enough. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I don't really trust myself, so I have to keep depending on God. What do you say about me? And now let me try to line up with that. But as far as me having independent wisdom, I don't have it. I've learned that I don't have it. Legacy-wise, everybody wants their child to do well. The question is, with the time you got with them, how well can you make them do? what can you pour into them that they got it? Then that becomes your legacy. So I think we got a great future. I think that what's ahead of us is better than I thought it was. But I have to contribute all of that to obedience.
Okay.
God, whatever I see, it don't have to make sense. I'm not worried about the neighbor's kids. They don't live in this house. But this house, as far as me and my house, we got to do it this way.
Right.
And that's what we do.
All right. Right. Outstanding. Your recent series has been on prayer.
Yeah.
Right. And with everything that's going on around us, with George Floyd, with even we can just go back and list the names: Crutcher, Garner, Trayvon Martin. Right. A lot of things are on the table, right, that are being recognized by the wider audience that we as black men, as black people, have known and seen and lived for years. Right. And I want you to relate that, what's going on around us, to what obviously is your rooting, and you are rooted and grounded, right? Like there can be storms breaking around, but we have to stay in God's word, right? So give us some encouragement as fathers, right? That God's word will take us through, regardless of what it is that is going on around us.
Right.
So,
I think you have to help your family to say, keep your eye on me. Keep your eye on me. And when I say that, it's because watch my response. What can a person do to you that you will not forgive them? What is that? And God, is that allowed? Can I choose at least 3 that I will never forgive? If you do this, and I'll never forgive you. Well, I have to get my children to understand, you don't fight the system. Obey God that made the system. Find out what he said about these situations. None of these are new. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever was, is, and whatever is, it was.
Yes, sir.
So that's nothing new. So if you learn the principles, and the principles are eternal. I mean, if I drop this mic, it's not going left, it's not going right, it ain't going up.
Yes, sir.
It's going down.
It's going down.
If I drop it 100 times, it's going the same way. So these principles that I gather early in life, that what did God say about husbands? What did God say about wife? What did God say about children? What did God say about your enemies? What did God say about your government and how you should respond? And that's what you do. Now, is the government right? No, because the government's made up flawed men.
Right.
And if they don't know God, then they're sure to make greater mistakes simply because they that far away from God. So again, if I can relate to the church, and that's why I'm saying, okay, look, when you get confused about what's going on around you, keep looking up.
Right.
Keep looking up.
Okay.
Because this too shall pass.
Yes, sir. Yes,
You know, we ain't the only one that's been mistreated and abused. And I mean, you can talk about the Jews, you can talk about whoever you want to talk about. And God had a purpose for all of that. So it gives me a peace to know that he's still in charge, he's still in control. And they can only do what God allowed them to do. And they got to live out their consequences. We got to live out our consequences.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure that I don't get so black that I'm not human or Christian, or so indifferent that, well, you know, that's happening across the street over there.
That it don't matter.
No, it matters. It matters. Black lives matter.
Yes, sir.
Blue, green, white, they all matter. Life matters.
Yes, sir.
And but the irony in this is that it's going just the way God planned it. Okay, because he already wrote it in the book. So you don't have to guess what he said. He already said, and it's not going to be a whole lot of peace. But that's why we're being set up for the Antichrist, because he's going to come in and he's going to produce peace. The problem is it's not going to last long.
Right.
but it's all in the book. So if I leave here suddenly, I'm hoping my children will get to the book.
Right.
Where did he get his answers from?
Right.
He got it from the book.
And that foundation is what you laid.
Yeah.
Pastor, I wish we could, we are out of time. I wish we had more, right? I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Here in 2003, you and I were here on this stage, and I was with a beautiful woman,
Yeah.
and I'm still married to that beautiful woman,
Yeah.
and we thank you for the work you've done,
Yeah.
pastoring this church and continuously teaching the word. It has been, it has definitely been productive work.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank
All right.
you so much.
All right.
It's
Yes,
been
sir.
great.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Here's an interesting black father myth that the majority of black fathers do not live with their children. Well, according to CDC, the majority of black fathers actually live with their children, 2.5 million as opposed to 1.7 million. Furthermore, whether living in the same home or not, black fathers are the most involved of all primary recorded race and ethnic groups. We'll be right back after this.
A shout out to our 2020 graduates. We celebrate with you as you move forward with your plans, hopes, and dreams. Know that God is able even now. Congratulations. We love you, your Bible Way family.
All right, we're with our next guest, Brother Jason White. Jason, good to see you, man. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you, Charles, man. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm wonderful, bro. I'm excited about this conversation, man. Let's get right into it.
Sure.
You have a beautiful family, and tell us about your family. Tell us about your family.
Well, I've been married to my lovely wife, Shayla, for 11 years. We have 3 children, a set of twins, Jordan and Cameron, who are both 6, and my daughter, Reagan, is 4.
Right. Let's talk about parenting philosophy, right? And you come into a marriage, you have 2 different backgrounds and 2 different set of assumptions. So tell us about how you and Shayla built your philosophy together about how you were going to parent and raise the children.
Well, the first thing that we wanted to establish was just how we were going to be a team, right? I think everything functions well if you're a team because you're on the same page. Of course, being married, you want to become one. So in parenting, you want to become one as well. So we actually sat down because my wife is a planner and talked about how that teamwork looks, right? And so with that teamwork, we always decided that we would love a certain way. We would always be there a certain way, unconditionally, as any other parent would, right? But along with that, we wanted to make sure that we were doing it God's way as well, which is always the most important, because without the instructions or the groundwork, you can't parent properly. Right. So that was very important for us.
Right. That's beautiful. That shared assumption that we're a team and we're gonna figure this thing out together. That's beautiful. Okay, I jumped right into the family, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I learned today that we're from the same part of town, man.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Born and raised in Houston, Texas. Grew up in Windsor Village, as you already know. My parents were married in 95, 96 when we moved out to the Sagemont area. Graduated from Clearbrook High School. Did some studying at San Jac in business, and currently now, I'm I'm an operations manager for Wells Fargo Bank, assistant vice president. Right. So, and we currently reside in Pearland. So,
Well, let's dive right into Pearland, man. We both have kids in Pearland schools, right? And as black men, as black fathers, there's a lot that's been on the news now that a wider audience is aware of, right? And one of those things is how our children, specifically our male children, are seen, in the educational system. So give me a little bit about the challenges that you and Shayla have seen with the kids in school, and just how you feel it affects them, and what you want to see happen next.
So for us, our experience in Pearland ISD is unique because my two boys are the only two African American boys in the kindergarten class in there at Long Hunt Elementary School. So it's been a huge adjustment because we don't teach color in our house per se, but you know, when you go to the school and you see teachers that don't look like them, there's not many students that look like them. It's hard, man, because as we know, our children are unique and wonderfully made. They're talented. Our boys they've been trained well. They are advanced for their age. So there's not too much that they can't handle. They're in the dual language program. But I say all that to say, you know, this year's been a year of challenge, man, because we dealt with a situation where another student asked one of the twins, you know, why his skin was dark, and that was immediately followed by he was going to go home and get his gun and come back and kill him. So that's difficult to hear, you know, especially in kindergarten, you know, because something like that is being taught at home. It's not being taught in the school. You know, that comes from your home training. So being a black father, man, is tough because, you know, we've had this discussion prior. You know, we wanted to cross that bridge, I guess, when we were ready, but times and current situations have dictated for us to advance that conversation and teach them that, hey, when you're not in your mom and dad's presence, there's a certain way you need to conduct yourself. You need to carry yourself a certain way. You need to be able to take the emotions out of being a 6-year-old, right? Which is hard to do, as we all know, dealing with 6-year-olds and a group of 6-year-olds at that. So we sat down with the principal, man, and had a dialect with her, and she did a really good job of making us feel comfortable, and just letting her know that we would continue to be present and be there for not just our kids, but any other kid as well, you know, just to make sure that our kids are getting the same treatment, because we all know, you know, if your kid doesn't act a certain way or perform at a certain level, you know, they want you to counsel. Then if counseling doesn't work, they want to try to medicate your child. So, you know, we don't want to see our kids go down that road.
Right. You mentioned what was being taught in the home in other places. And I've often said, you know, I can't go to everybody's house and teach everybody's kid, right? That's just completely impossible. So let's talk about just the white family and what you and Sailor are. What do y'all do for fun? You know, what kind of things are y'all exposing the kids to? You know, just what does life in the white family household look like?
Life in the white household is all about experiences, right?
Okay.
So our goal is to create experiences for our kids that we may have had or never had the opportunity to have as children. So we do things, we like to travel.
Okay.
We recently went to Disney World in February, post Super Bowl, pre-corona. We were there for the Super Bowl parade. So the kids got to see Patrick Mahomes, and we like to have fun, man. You know, just create, you know, opportunities for them, trying to teach them how to cook, let them help cook, let them help cut the grass, you know, things that, you know, that we may not have experienced at that early of an age, because they see more, they're exposed to more. So we you know, a day in the life, man, is pretty hectic, man, because my wife and I both work. So I've, you know, subscribed to the philosophy that if you can go to work and give your job 110% of yourself, then you need to be able to come home and do the same thing, right? So a lot of times, as me as a dad and my wife as you know, being a mom, you know, we burn the candle on both ends. So we know that this phase that we're in, where we're trying to create experiences with traveling and doing special projects for them, and letting them experience things at home and teaching them as much as we can, because they're sponges at this point. So we want to just ensure that there's not too much that they won't have seen in their lifetime, and then they can carry that on to their families as well.
Right. That's beautiful. You mentioned what was key in that for me was experiences, right? Not so much stuff, right? Because we've done. I mean, our generation is, and we're supposed to, right? We're supposed to be able to say we did better than the previous generation, financially and materially and all that. But that doesn't wrap up the whole fatherhood, family experience. We want them to know, learn, be exposed, right,
Exactly.
to more stuff. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So 2 boys and a girl. We have. Let's just talk about the process, how that family was built. You shared with me something very transparent, and I really appreciate that you had to deal with the loss of a child. And give us, talk to us about that. Tell us how you navigated that along with Shayla.
Sure. So prior to having the boys, my wife found out around her birthday a couple years before, in 2011, that she was pregnant. And she, of course, experienced a miscarriage. Later to come to find out, the female hormone levels weren't high enough, which is I'm not going to say pretty normal, but in her case, that's what was the case due to that caused the miscarriage. I'm sorry. But as far as the grieving process and going through that, because you always think, what if, of course our family would be larger, but we understand that God is in control, and He had something bigger and better for us. And we still look back on that experience, man, to this day, and just realize, man, that we went through that, man, to make us closer, right? And to bring us closer to God, so that we could actually be ready for what He had in store for us. Beautiful. So we prayed for the twins, man, and we got them, man, in September of 2013, and it's a blessing, man, because twins run in her family. Okay. They don't run in mine. Okay. So it's her grandmother, and her grandmother is a twin. Her paternal grandmother is a twin. So to have a set of twins in their family, man, I think it means a lot to them.
Beautiful. Kind of I guess the stereotype on just black men and black fathers is that we're not present. We're hard, we're cold, what I mean? We can't feel, we can't love, right? And what you talked about was exactly the opposite of that, right? Like it took some, you said grieving, right? And it took some, like Otis Redding would say, I try a little tenderness. It took a lot of love to get through that. Let's talk about the boys specifically, right? And with what kind of example, if somebody was asking them, tell me about your dad, right? What kind of example do you want to set for them as a man, as a father, that they're carry on into life?
Of course, man, the first thing that I want them to be able to say is that my dad was always there.
Beautiful,
right?
Yeah.
Because I grew up without my dad. So the whole driving force for me is to be the father that I never had, right? And so my wife understands that, and so she presses me even on days when I'm not being the best dad, right? She calls me out, she gives me little subtle reminders that, hey, like you said, maybe I'm not being as patient as I need to be. Maybe I'm not being as affectionate as I need to be, because one of the things that and it's been taught to me through my son, through Jordan, is that he's affectionate. He likes touch, right? And we all know that as black men, hug, you don't say what's up, So even being here at Bible Way, man, seeing grown men hug each other, full blown out hugs, man, is something that I really appreciate about our church family. But even just in my family, man, the whole driving force for me, man, is to just be the father that I never had. Right.
So that's beautiful, man. The being there is so important, because you don't realize, like every baseball game, every that. I realized that after a while, my kids expected me to be there, right? And for me not to be there, it would throw them off, right? It's not what they expected. So it's beautiful that you built that in, and that's what they're expecting, right? And they'll carry that on. Man, like I said, we had a lot to talk about in that time. Yeah, that time already. Yeah. So, bro, I want to thank you very much for being so transparent, right? And I'm gonna tell you, my son, you work with Jam. My son looks up to you. You know, he tells me, man, you need to work out so you can be the athletic dad like Mr. Jason. So you inspire me, bro.
Appreciate it, man.
And the people around you are looking up to you, man. And thank you very much for setting that example. I appreciate it,
man. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. All right.
Here's another black father myth. Black men are nearly 3 times as likely as white men to have at least one child they don't live with. Now, according to New York Times, they found that there are 100 black women for every 83 non-incarcerated black men. So the mass incarceration has actually drained 1.5 million men, many of whom are young, marrying age, from their communities, making it very difficult for black women to find committed partners of the same age. We hope you're enjoying your Father's Day special. We'll be right back with Fatherhood, a conversation.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, Paul says we can have many different gifts, but if we do not have love, we have nothing. Please be mindful, our readings for June is 1 Corinthians chapter 12 through 14.
All right, our next guest, also a member of Bible Way, a brother with 4 beautiful children and a member of the United States Marine Corps, Brother Chris Brooks. Brother Brooks, you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's do this, sir. Let's do it. All right, man, I appreciate you joining us today. First, let me hear about your family, man. I know 3 of your children, I have them in Jam, right? So tell us about your family. Tell us about the kids.
So I have a 19-year-old by my first wife. Her name is Kayla. She is a student at Tuskegee University right now. And then I have the 3 that you all see me with all the time here by my second wife. That is Corlin, Chandon, and Cleona. So I live in League City with my 3 youngest. And my oldest daughter stays with her mom in Houston.
Okay, good deal. You mentioned your oldest daughter is at Tuskegee, and you graduated from Tuskegee as well. Right?
That is correct.
All right, beautiful, man. Tell us a little bit about your background, what you majored in, and then we'll jump into the whole fatherhood deal.
Okay. Well, I graduated from Tuskegee in 2007 with a chemical engineering degree, and came straight to Houston. Once I got my degree, got a job with a water treatment company, Severn Trent Denora, from 2007 to 2014, at which time I switched over to LyondellBasell, and I've been there to the present.
Okay. All right, let's jump right into this fatherhood. I have a boy and a girl, and you have 2 boys, 2 girls, right?
That is correct.
Right, so you've got that, I'll say you have the job of parenting daughters, right? And it's a challenge, right? And building that relationship and understanding how to discipline. So tell us about building a relationship and challenge and disciplining your daughters. How have you approached that?
In a lot of ways, it's the same as how I handle my sons, but my daughter is a lot more interpersonal. So she likes to engage me a lot more. The boys, pretty much when they need help, or when they need strength, they'll come to Dad, hey, Dad, help me do this, or can I do that? But my daughter tends to be, will you play with me? Will you come do this with me? Can we? Let us. So with her, I have to, get down on the floor, play Barbies and teacups, have tea parties and things like that. With her being the only girl in the house, so it's her and 2 boys and Dad. So she's the youngest and she's the only girl in the house. So she spends a lot of her time trying to keep up with the boys. And there's nobody there to be a girly girl with her. So she loves to put on makeup and, wear her dresses and stuff like that. And she has nobody to play with in that capacity. And so I have to fill that gap.
Okay, good deal, good deal.
Which is something I never thought I would be doing, but hey.
Right. That's beautiful, man. It's the fathers, the flexibility that you have to engage, to basically be who you got to be to communicate with all the kids effectively, right? It's something else, man. I play with dolls, right, and I do dress up when I'm invited to, right. I'm told not to, you don't go in there and touch the dollhouse and move my stuff. But if I invite you, I expect to see you. You know what I mean? So yeah, that presence is incredible. Let's talk about the challenges that you may have seen, right, and how you've dealt with raising biracial children. Right, we're in a country that, right now we keep saying that America is as racially divided as it's ever been, right? But we keep going up that scale, right? So give me some idea about what challenges you've seen and how you navigate those.
I would say my greatest challenge. So first of all, my oldest daughter is not biracial. My 3 youngest are biracial. So the greatest challenge I have with them is helping them to recognize how the world views them. From even though you are white and black, the world will see you as black, and it will regard you and treat you as a black person. All the good and ills that come with that. But at the same time, I don't want them to see the world from a white-black perspective. So the balance in helping them understand this is what you'll have to deal with, but at the same time saying you are a person and you treat all people like people, and you don't classify or prejudge anybody. So that is a great challenge.
Give me a little bit about how your experience in the Marine Corps shaped that philosophy, right? Because you were very clear in saying, I don't want them to, I know how the world's going to see them, but I don't want them to see the world in the same way. And we hear a lot about how people who've served in the military, when you're in the military, we got a job to do. I got the people who are with me, and all of these colors and racism and stereotypes, they don't have no place in this. So tell us about how the Marine Corps has shaped that view.
The way the military dispels the differences between people is in training you that life is at stake. Whatever it is we're doing, whatever it is we're trying to achieve, whatever the goal, whatever the mission, if you fail, people die. It doesn't matter whether the black guy failed, whether the white guy failed. You fail, people die. So from that perspective, it's easy to get past, I want the guy on my team who's going to help me live through this. I don't care what color he is. I don't care where he comes from. I don't care how he views the world. I want to live through this. And in the military, when you're being trained, we're not here to classify or organize in such a way that people are being placed into groups. We're all here to achieve the goal.
Beautiful. It's about mission and that value that's placed on life, right? Regardless of what, that's outstanding. Okay. Let's talk about the spiritual foundation, right? We all know our kids are they're going to face things independently where we're not going to be able to be part of the situation, right? And so for everybody out there, we understand, like, we have to send our kids out, right? We can't be there all the time. So tell me about your spiritual foundation and what you're trying to build in your children so that they'll be ready and able to handle situations that they come up to, when they're out at school or wherever they happen to be.
For myself, I feel as though, I was raised in the church by my mother, but I feel as though my spiritual foundation did not become significant or did not become one that I relied on until later in life. I would say by 30s even. For my children, I would like them to rely on God from a very early age and learned to do it much earlier than I did.
Right.
Because it'll serve you well from an earlier point as opposed to the later point. Instead of making all the mistakes that lead you to God out of despair.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
You know, it serves you much better to just have a habit
Right.
of going to God and relying on God.
Right. Right.
So that you don't have to go through that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that foundation is, and we've talked about that. That's been a motif, so to speak, a theme, right? We're trying to build foundations, right, that they can build from, without having to try and figure it out, you know, later, right? We want you to get it now. Okay, so your oldest daughter is 19, right? She's at Tuskegee. I haven't reached that phase where we're talking about dating yet, but tell me how you approach that. You know, before she went to college and now that she's there, you know, what conversations have y'all had, and what have you taught about dating in those relationships?
Well, the biggest thing is she knows what's in the Bible as far as sex and things like that. Right. Second of all, just try to keep an open forum. Trying to maintain a relationship where she is not afraid or hesitant to come to you with any issue that she has. Right. So that has been my focus, and more so than being the parent that gets mad, or being the parent, how could you do this, or reacts in such a way that makes her reluctant to bring any issue and put it on the table in front of me. So just understand that she's a person, and what helps me a lot is to think back on me when I was her age and the things I went through and what I was doing. So I should expect her mind to be somewhere relatively in the same place that my mind was. So now that I'm 45, I don't want to look at her situation from a 45-year-old's perspective. Right. I try to see it from a 19-year-old's perspective, and then just help her with some knowledge and tidbits so that she can learn to think and solve and manage her life successfully on her own.
Right, right. Let's keep talking about that, because in order to pull that off, you clearly have to have a relationship, right?
Yes.
And let's talk about just communication with the older. I mean, she's an adult, right? So just the communication with adult children. What does that? You know, how often do you all talk? What subjects are on the table? Just how do you foster that relationship to keep it intimate with, so that she knows, I can bring anything to Dad.
Right. Well, bear in mind, my 19-year-old is the child that does not live in the house with me. Exactly. So she stays with her mother. So she has a very tight relationship with her mother, which is a good thing. Right. So there's someone always right there that she can share anything with, who's on her team. Right. But with me, we probably talk once a week at the very least, and then whenever she needs money or anything like that, Dad's always the one on the horn for that. Right. But since she's an engineering major and I graduated in engineering, so when she has questions about school, she'll call me, because I've taken pretty much all the classes that she has taken. Right. And she likes to talk to her younger siblings and see what they see her as hip. She knows she's not old like Dad. They see Dad as outdated and archaic.
Like you say, 45. They think you might as well be 100 years old. Yeah, I feel you.
But she's older than them, but yet they still consider her young and hip. Right. So they have a nice relationship that they go back and forth with. But I feel like we're fairly open, and she feels like she can come to me with whatever she wants to come to me with.
Right. I mean, I think it's beautiful, man. Another thing I'm hearing is that there's a lot of communication, right, between the kids, and there's a lot of relationship that's built there, right? That's beautiful. Let's talk about the three youngest, and what grades are they in?
So in the fall, they will be starting 7th, 6th, and 5th grades.
Okay. Are they? That's not at the same school, right? They won't all be at the same school?
No, the boys will be at the same school,
Okay.
which is Victory Lakes
Okay.
Intermediate, and then my daughter
Okay.
will be at Gilmore Elementary.
Okay, good deal, good deal. Let's talk about just what their experience has been in school, right? From a standpoint of, you were talking about how the world sees them, right? What challenges have they met in school from either a relationship with teachers standpoint or a discipline standpoint that you've had to get involved in and kind of lead and manage and help them figure out?
My youngest son, I'd say about 3 years ago, he was having some discipline problems. And what makes it difficult is when you're not there. I know my child at home.
Right.
And so I know his personality. I know some of the things he can. So when things happen at school and I'm not there,
Right.
I get two stories. I get the story the teacher tells, and then I get the story that my son tells.
Fair enough.
So I have to guess how much of what my son is doing is covering up what he's done, and how much of it is injustice done to him. Because he always tells a story that sells injustice
Right.
to him.
Right. Yeah. The more questions you ask, the more you,
Right. And so typically what I have to do is ask for enough details to be able to discern whether or not what happened sounds like something my son would do. And then from there, I'll start to, advise him or discipline him or what have you.
Right.
But early on, he had some discipline problems, but I haven't had many problems. Typically, the teachers like my children.
Yeah.
My youngest son he's a ham, and he loves attention.
Okay.
He likes to be the center of attention.
Right.
So usually when there's an issue with him, it's because he is taking all the attention of the students away from the teacher, and has got it on him, to the point where one teacher actually would save 5 minutes at the end of class and say, "Okay, Chandon, do your thing. The class is yours." So
That's some that's some progressive teaching thinking right there. That's off the tape.
But it worked. It was a tactic that worked.
Yeah.
He would wait and participate like he was supposed to until it's Chandon time.
My time.
Right.
Okay, good deal, man. All right, Brother Brooks, man, tell me what it's like, right, being a single father to 3 kids that are, they got their homework, their activities. Tell me how you manage that, man.
It is difficult at times. There are 3 of them, and there is 1 of me.
Right.
So, and they always fussing and fighting, and things going on. The greatest challenge is typically whenever there's a problem, I always am brought into the loop after the fact. Something has happened already.
Right.
And now I come and I have to figure out
You got to put on
who's the culprit, what went down,
your detective hat.
Yes.
Right.
That is the most difficult part because you want to be just in parceling out whatever the consequences are, but a lot of times you don't know who did what.
Right.
So I have adopted a habit or a policy of a lot of times I tend to invoke communal consequences. So regardless of who the culprit is, everybody's going to suffer this consequence.
Okay.
And so that has slowly produced results in that the kids are starting to now, when they see a problem, like if somebody takes something out of the refrigerator and leaves it out, and then I say, who left this out? 3 children say, I didn't do it. Okay, well, all of y'all are going to have to suffer the consequence for this being left out. So now I'm starting to notice that when something gets left out, whoever sees it will just take care of it now.
Which is what we,
Because they know whether I did it or not, I'm going to pay the consequence for it.
That initiative is
yes. And so I have had to develop that as a parenting skill. One of my biggest, I don't want to say weapons, but one of the biggest methods that I use for helping with the children. Another thing is I have to watch the dynamic between the boys and the girls because the boys, they're close in age and they love the Xbox, and so they do a lot of the same things, have a lot of common interests. My daughter, she's not as into the Xbox. She likes playing dolls and that. So the boys don't really like to do a lot of the things that my daughter likes to do.
Right.
So I have to give a lot of attention to the dynamic between them to get them to play together.
Right.
And then I myself have to put in a lot more personal time with my daughter than I do with my boys because of that, because the boys aren't interested in a lot of things she wants to do, so I have to be that playmate that she's seeking.
And they can go on the Xbox and entertain themselves for however long you let them, right? They'll stay there.
Correct. And they play sports together, and they do a lot of things. They're on the same baseball team, same basketball team. So the boys do a lot of things together. My daughter does gymnastics on her own. So, and all she wants to see is dad there. Because she always has to go to the boys' games, to the boys' practices, and dad is always at the boys' games and the boys' practices. So when she has gymnastics practice, all she's looking to see is look over there and see dad.
Where is he?
And so, you have to take care and pay a lot of attention to that. But that's what was chosen. That's what I chose. So, you have to dedicate and be dedicated so that everybody can get the father they need. But just do the best you can.
Let me get one real quick thing, man. Like I said, we're running out of time, but let me get one more quick thing. When you got everybody together, like what do you as the group, right? What do y'all do for fun?
So my kids are Monopoly junkies.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So they love to play Monopoly and they love to talk smack.
Okay.
And so a lot of times we'll play Monopoly when we're all together.
Right.
Or we'll go out to a restaurant and get something to eat.
Right.
And when we're driving in the car, my oldest daughter likes to play a game where she will take her, I don't know, Spotify or Pandora or whatever it is, and she'll play a song. Right. And the first one to guess the name of the song and the artist of the song. So that's a game we play whenever we're driving in the car. They love that game.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then Monopoly and Uno. They like to play Uno.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff. But brother, that went way too fast. Listen, it has really been a pleasure to sit and talk to brothers that you see all the time. Right, but you never have the opportunity to just like sit and just debate about the things that we're all going through, right? So I really appreciate your time, Brother Brooks.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. It's been awesome.
Here's a black father myth. It says that black men are likely not involved in their children's everyday lives. Now, according to CDC again, black fathers, that is 70% of us men, most likely have dressed, bathed, diapered, or helped their children use the toilet every day, compared to our white counterpart, 60%, and Hispanics, 45%. Now, brothers, I'm not ready to call you Big Mama, but you're running a close second, and I'm very proud of you. Fatherhood, a conversation, and we'll continue it right after this.
Bible Way. Effectively and immediately, our food pantry will be open to the community on Tuesdays and Thursdays, each week starting at 1 p.m. The pantry will close after the last box has been distributed, which means the hours are no longer 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
All right, we're here with our next guest, another member of Bible Way Fellowship Baptist Church, Minister Ulrich Mooring Jr. Brother Minister, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good deal, man. Good deal. All right. Tell me a little bit about you and your background, where you're from and what you've been up to.
Well, I'm actually from a little town called Bryan.
Okay.
College Station.
Okay.
About 100 miles from here.
Okay.
We actually got here when I was 2.
Okay.
So I guess you can say I'm a native Houstonian.
Okay. Which part of Houston did you grow up in?
I grew up on the southeast side
of
Houston.
Okay.
Yeah. Came out of Milby High School. I went to Clear Creek for a little while, till the 9th grade, and we transferred back up to the southeast side.
Okay, all right. Good deal, man. All right, so tell me about the family, man. Like I figured out today that if we'd had a conversation or a contest today to see who had the most kids, you would have won. So tell me about your family.
Well, there's 5 kids. Oldest being my daughter Jasmine.
Okay.
Second oldest would be Jared. My third oldest is Noel, and of course Max and Lil Toby.
Right. Good deal. And your wife? Tell us about your beautiful wife. How long you've been married, and where you met?
Wow. Well, we met in high school.
Okay.
We've been together since high school. Let's see here. We met in 1989.
Okay.
So we've been together quite a while.
Okay.
We've been married for now 18 years. Yeah.
Wonderful,
3
man.
beautiful kids.
Wonderful. Yeah.
She's from New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she, transitioned over here. I think they got over here back in the 80s or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, and I met her in high school. She's been on my side ever since then.
Good deal. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. All right. Well, tell me about the relationship with your wife and how you all decided that this is how we're going to parent and raise our children. How did you come to your agreement on what your strategy and philosophy was going to be?
Well, it's a twofold thing.
Okay.
You always got to have an agreement on how you're going to do stuff, because kids, they love to pick at parents,
Right.
They'll go to one parent and want to say something else, but then my daddy told me I can do this.
Right.
So
right.
we come to the point where we learned that through the oldest.
Okay.
Because for a while she was the only child for about 10 years that lived in the household.
Right.
So, we just, compromise. Hey, she say this, then, we're going to stick to our, don't worry about the sad eyes and all that. We're just going to stick to our plan.
Right.
That way we can,
Right. So tell me about the relationship between you got a spread of ages, right? The oldest is, you said
26.
26. All right. And Lil Toby is the youngest. He's 7th grade, 8th grade. Yeah. Okay.
He's going to the 8th grade.
He's going to 8th grade. Okay. So tell me about the relationship between all 5 and how you foster communication and building relationships.
Wow. So their relationship is really strong.
Beautiful.
It's remarkable how God actually orchestrated that. It has nothing to do with us.
Right.
Because we're just there as individuals trying to walk them in the right direction. But in their minds, they know that, hey, this is my step brother, this is my step sister.
Right.
So I gotta find a way to entrust, and then, when they have issues, they usually call on one of us, and we'll sit down, and for the most part, we'll do a family meeting.
Okay.
So we'll all sit down at the dinner table, and it'll be me and my wife at the head of the table. We're heading it up, and everybody put out their little issues. For the most part, that's how we usually discipline and address situations, and it's like a little mini council.
Right.
Or conference or what have you.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. What has been, just in your career as a father, right? What has been the biggest issue or challenge that you've come across, and how did you handle it?
Wow.
Yeah, because for me, it's been the, I'm really close to my kids, right? Not just physically, we all live in the same house. We are, emotionally, we communicate, right? So the biggest challenge for me has been modeling the behaviors that I want them to exhibit, because they see me when I mess it up. right? And so the challenge for me has been the accountability on my side. Like, if I'm telling you, you need to be reading your Bible, like I'm teaching at Salton, you need to be reading Bible, I got to be doing that. If I'm telling you, you need to pray, I need to pray, right? So for me, the biggest issue has been just the consistency, right? And doing what I want them to do, right? And so what do you think about, like, if not a challenge, right? But what would be, I guess, something that you've helped them overcome, right, in their personal lives?
Well, there's a lot of obstacles there,
Right,
because we're
right.
talking about 3 other kids that
Right.
are well in their 20s now. So that teenage year of them being with me and my wife has always posed a challenge,
Right.
even when it disrupts the home.
Right.
So one of my biggest challenges was my oldest daughter. She had issues with, let's say, dating.
All right, great deal. Yeah.
Being in high school gave her a lot of challenges. Up until the point where we had to step in, and sometimes she would settle for a lower grade, like a C, just to get past, just to say she did it or she completed her work. When she knows she could well off just make an A.
Right.
She put forth some effort.
Right.
And one of the challenges was dealing with the school district, which is PISD.
Okay. Which P? Is
Pasadena.
Pasadena. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not Paris.
We got our issues though, bro.
Yeah. So, that being said, getting involved into the PTA or
Right,
PTO program, trying to make a connection with the teachers, so that way, you be on one accord with
Right,
them,
right.
just in case if the problem still occurs,
Right.
then, that teacher don't have an issue with contacting you and say, hey, Mr. Moore, can you,
Can you address
talk
this?
to Jasmine in reference
yeah.
to, whatever that issue may be.
Right.
She's lacking in her work, or she's falling asleep in class. Just to have that interaction.
Right.
So that was one of the issues with Jazz. Thank God she finished out of Dobie. Well, matter of fact, she got more comfortable once her brother came over and they graduated together.
Okay.
So, that is a scenario in itself.
Okay.
So, with him stepping in the picture, she felt more relaxed and, this, that, and the other. Of course, he's her stepbrother, he's just a half-brother, which is my son, which I had before I got married.
Okay. All right.
And, let's see. So he came over in the 11th grade from Worthing High School, which was a great, wonderful. He always been in our lives. He always been at my house, and he actually stepped in where we couldn't step in. And what I mean by that, he gave her a sense of comfort that hey, we're gonna make this happen.
Okay.
This your big brother right here.
Okay.
He wasn't really the big brother.
Yeah.
But he played the role.
Right.
So,
I got your back, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was, that was real nice.
Okay.
For them to click together, and
Right.
to this day,
Right.
they're still tight.
They're real tight. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I guess now at home now you have you said Richie and Maxine, right?
Rich and Maxine.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Tell us about the relationship between those two. Like I see him here
wow.
I see him here in Salt and in Jam, I guess previously, right? I just love him, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the relationship between them.
Honestly, now I got 5.
Right.
Now those last 2 is a blessing
I hear you.
to me and to my wife.
I hear you.
It's a joy raising those 2. I mean, man, words can't really explain, because those 2 kids are close to my heart.
Right.
And when I tell you they put out and they do exactly what they're told to do.
Yeah.
You know, without
Yeah.
any issues or any
Yeah.
repercussions. And with them growing up, I mean, you know, Max, 17 now, Toby's 12. So, you know, after a while they'll be gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Maxine is going to be a senior?
She'll be a senior
She's
next
going to be
year.
a senior. Okay. All right. So there's some hurdles we're getting ready to jump, and just we're getting ready to go out into the world. So you as a father, tell me about the conversations that the two of you have had about, like, you know, dating, relationships, future career. How have you approached some of those I guess I call them right before you get out of the house? These are the things I need to make sure you know. I need to make sure these lessons are fresh, right? What's the conversation between you and Maxine like?
Well, now, the first conversation I have with Max is about dating.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of guys out there, you know, that we call back in the day, we call them slick willies. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you try to bring her up to speed on what a slick willie does.
Yeah, these cats ain't about it.
So,
yeah, okay.
you know, whether they're young, older, you know, just downright, you know, slick.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, we try to watch, you know, we'll sit back and we'll strategize, me and my wife, you know, we'll paint a picture for her,
Right.
you know, and ask her, hey, you know, have you ever encountered anybody like this? Have you know, dealt with somebody like this at school?
Yeah.
And, you know, at the most part, you know, most kids encounter those type of students,
Right.
you know, so.
Right.
I mean, besides dealing with slick willies and everything else, you know, drugs and all this stuff in the high schools, you know, you
Right.
try to keep them up to par on what's going on and what to look out for.
Yeah.
And what to never, ever, you know, deal with.
Right.
With, you know, especially friends that actually indulge in that type of stuff, you know. So, I mean, we just try to give her the awareness clause in reference to, you know,
Right.
what to be mindful and, you know,
Right.
look out for.
Right, right. So that whole thing, what I'm hearing is we're taking care of these challenges by addressing it.
Right.
We're not trying to let her go out into the world and get, you know, taught something wrong or to learn by negative experience. We're addressing it at the house.
Right. So that
And
when she
yeah.
go out there and it, you know, she run
Right.
into something like this, then
Right.
she'll know.
Right.
You know, some kids hear their, you know, parents' voice in their
Right.
head when something bad comes up. I mean, you know,
Yeah. Like this was what mom and daddy was talking
yeah,
about.
what would my dad do?
Yeah.
What would my mom do? What would my mom say?
Right. Right. So tell me about a day in the house, man. What does the Mooring family do for fun?
Wow, we do a lot.
Good deal.
Yeah, we do a lot.
Because you got a volleyball player and you got a trumpet player and a basketball player,
Yeah.
right? So you got some talented folks in there. So when y'all are all together, what's that activity look like?
On a nice drive or
Yeah.
just sitting at the house, we either playing hangman or
Okay.
we may play Uno.
Okay.
We'll sit down. We got this one game that we play for the majority of the time. Like it may be like around about 7 o'clock. We'll be on there till about 10.
Yeah.
It's called Headbangs.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
And
So-
then we may do that game with Steve Harvey.
What is that called? Family Feud.
Family
There
Feud.
you go.
Yeah.
It took me a
Yeah.
while to put Steve Harvey and Family Feud together. Yeah.
So
Okay.
those are the
okay.
games that we usually play around the
Okay.
house.
Okay. So you also are a grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have been amazed, right, with the transformation in my parents from that parent role to that grandparent role, man, because it is something totally different. So tell me, we in the amount of time that we got left, we got about a minute left. Tell me what it's been like. Tell me about the grandbaby, right? Boy or girl?
Wow, boy.
Boy.
The
how
new
old?
grandbaby.
Brand new.
Yeah.
So okay, when
New.
New. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it's you haven't you're getting ready to work your way into that role, right?
Yes.
Okay, but what do you see yourself, like what do you see for yourself in that role as a grandparent?
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah.
I want to play a big role, too.
Okay.
I want to, man, look, honestly, I couldn't write this.
I hear you.
You know, my life. I couldn't write this. There's nobody but God.
Right.
You know, for me.
Right.
And at the age of 18, I never could see that far down the line.
Mm-hmm.
But having these 4 grandbabies,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and that one little boy, the one little boy,
Right.
you know, I'm blessed to see that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was when my mother-in-law used to say, and my mother as well, they used to say, I want my grandkids to know me, right? And I didn't really understand what that meant until I saw it in action, right? To have those kids, to have that relationship with the history, right, and the love that comes from a grandparent has been an incredible blessing for them. It really has. Brother Minister, man, I appreciate it. It's been great to sit and talk with some brothers that, you know, I see all the time, but I don't really get to dive into things, man. Thank you very much for sharing your family with us, and God bless y'all, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now let's change it up and deal with some facts. Nigerian Americans, according to Newsweek magazine, are among the most successful immigrant groups in our country. Now, much of their success can be attributed to strong marriages, strong families, and higher degree education. Now, in Nigeria, only 4% of Nigerian children are raised in a single-parent household. That's compared to the overall U.S. rate, 23%. Just thought you might want to know. Hey, speaking of knowing, on this Father's Day, you'll hear from our panel of men as they continue the discussion on fatherhood. A conversation right after this.
You spoke it, words were formed. You breathed and life was born.
All right, let's dive into that, the concept of self-sacrifice, right? And putting our family's needs before our own to make sure that they have what they need to be successful. What do you think about how you model self-sacrifice in the home?
I think the sacrifice goes without saying, especially from the standpoint of being a father. Number one, being the example, especially with children. I know my children watch what I do very closely, and I can see them mimicking what I do. The things that I do, I can see them repeating those behaviors. And so just instilling in them that if you just copy what I do, you know, you should be on the right road until a point where they understand those behaviors and why they do them and what they mean. Right.
Thank you, Brother Brooks. It is, I guess society kind of has a very low bar for fatherhood, just generally speaking. And then when you start talking about black fathers, the bar goes even lower, right? The stereotype is that, you know, we got kids everywhere, we don't care about none of them, and we just, you know, out in the world doing our thing. Let's talk about love, right? And expressing love to our families and what we do as fathers to build those intimate relationships with our kids so that, number one, they know, yeah, daddy loves me, right? And number two, they understand and that they can take that and apply that to the other relationships that they get into in their lives. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I would say it piggybacks on being a servant. Being of service, doing things that that go unnoticed until they come of age, where they can notice those sacrifices that are being made by you as a father. Right. And then from the love component, it's those intimate relationships. I have 3, so there's 3 different relationships that I need to be able to nurture. I need to be able to know them, what drives them individually, right? So just making sure that I have those intimate relationships with my 3 children.
Right. Thank you, Brother Jason. We'll tell our kids and we'll express to our kids how much we love them, and that is a core component of manhood and fatherhood. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so love. Let's continue to explore that as fathers.
You know, we're trying to show our kids something, but sometimes you can't show them. But you have to have a plan in your own mind of how I'm going to love them. And you may not be explaining that to them, but it takes pretty much 4 T's to make that love relationship work, that servant, and that is time, talking, transparent, and trust. There's no substitution for time. And when you spend time, you got to talk. And when you talk, you got to be transparent. And when you become transparent, now they trust you. But they need to know they can trust you, that you are going to make sure you give them the right answer to the best of your ability, that they can trust it. But if you don't spend time, that's love. If you don't talk, that's love. If you're not transparent, that's love. Now you never get to trust. If I just add one more T, touch them.
Okay,
you got to hug them. I mean, I don't care if your daughter, your son, I don't care if they're 50 years old or 5 years old.
Okay.
You got to hug them. There's something in the touch.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Morgan, did you want to jump in on that?
I believe the worst thing you can do to a child is not show him affection, him or her. Growing up as a young man, my father wasn't in my life, so I never heard my dad tell me, "I love you, son." My mom was always the person, that ran that course. Mother and father, but she could never really be my father, but she was a strong mother to me. So in my bringing up my kids, I would always give them the example of how it's wonderful to show expressions of love to them, That way, they'll know, you know, not only am I showing it, you know, you have a mother that loves you dearly. And this mother here that, you know, that God blessed me with, my wife, she has done that to each one of my kids.
Right.
So even by them being on the outside, they constantly call her, tell her, hey, Mom, I love you. She talked to the grandbaby. These expressions of love that carries over, you know, and to me, it wows me because they don't even call me that much, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm the one that put forth the, you know, going to the football games, taking them to basketball practice or, you know, what have you, you know. I mean, just being that part and showing expressions of love to your child is very, very important.
When I'm talking to my kids and, you know, we're having a moment and I'll ask them, you know, do you know I love you? And they'll say yes. I said, well, how do you know? And, you know, and for the first time we had that conversation, it was like, well, you know, we know. Well, I say, well, how do you know? What do I do? I spend time with you, right? And it's not just spending time with you on the discipline, or it's like we just hang out, right? You know, we spend time trying to build those relationships, getting to know you, you know, as a person, what you love and what you like to do, what your interests are, and all that kind of good stuff. So that time, like you say, you cannot replace, you know, spending time with the kids to build that relationship.
We have a tough hurdle to get over.
Right.
And that hurdle is, if your father was not there, and you haven't been raised up with that touchy stuff, you ain't never been hugged by your father. So we automatically got a big hurdle to get over. But I ain't talking about being a servant leader. But my son needs this.
Right.
My daughter needs this. But they'll never know how difficult that is to give something you never got. Okay, so I'm sorry, I want to lay that.
Yeah, that's so. Like I said, all of us have a relationship, whatever it was, right, with our father or father figures or whatever it is. And I appreciate you bringing that up, brother. That you filled in what you were missing, right? You wanted to be that father.
Yeah.
So how have you expressed to your children like the realities of racism in America and in the world in general? And what tools have you given them to kind of help them navigate like the realities of the world?
Light of recent events, they were able to witness that, and so it would be the second time in less than a year that we would have experienced race inside of our home becoming the top issue, and so. You know, you start to put that into them early, that society is going to view you differently, right? And there are certain expectations that come along with being a black man as well, right? Because we teach them to be proud that they're black. We teach them that they are unique and wonderfully made, right? And so they are gifted, they're talented, but they need to understand that along with all gifts and talents, they can also be a curse if you allow them to be. Right. So I think it's about right now is for us is about the perspective and starting to indoctrinate them into what Christ has for them as far as expectations as a believer.
Right.
And then we can deal with the love that needs to come from you and that you should expect back. Right? Because you have to love Christ in order to love yourself, and then you can project that out into the world. So that's kind of the dynamic that we have started indoctrinating in the twins at this point.
Okay. Appreciate that, Jason. Yeah. What I've told. Yeah. Go ahead, Brother Brooks.
For me, one of the greatest efforts I make with my children is for them to be able to recognize the forces when they are at work against them.
Okay.
Because I don't think my children quite can discern when racism is at hand or when it's at work. So a lot of the conversations I have with them about being out in the world and functioning in the world is just in trying to get them to recognize that the enemy doesn't always walk up to you and introduce himself. Hi, I'm the enemy, so I'm the one you need to look out for. A lot of times the enemy is trying not to be recognized by you. And so a lot of the conversations I have are just to try to help them develop the skill to be able to recognize when forces are at work against them.
Appreciate that, Brother Brooks. One of the things I've told my kids is when we've gone through, there are people who are going to look at you differently, and we've gone through all of that, right? But we've also taught them that you are just as talented, you are just as capable as anybody else who walks through the door, right? And we impress upon them the history is that the house we lived in, the schools you go into, your grandparents couldn't go to these schools, right? Both of my parents were born in 1942, and they both went to segregated schools, right? So this is all still, very fresh, right? And just in the course of human history. But we've not allowed them to use that as a crutch at all. I'm telling you, you have the capability, you have the resources, capitalize on them, right? Regardless of what comes across your way, capitalize on them and do your thing.
And let me say this very briefly, and that is that unless you tell your kids who they are, they're going to have to try to find out from somebody else. And that may not be the right definition of who they are.
Right.
With my kids, they ask me, they say, Daddy, you don't see what they're doing? I'm like, baby, Daddy don't want to watch that.
Right.
We understand that, there are some peaceful protests,
right,
that can be established. But now you have this Generation X, this culture that wants a peaceful protest. But then you have those, we want to see our kids prosper, but we don't want to see them go through like what's happening now.
Right. For the sound biblical doctrine, we are that first line of defense, right? And so part of what we do is just loving, right, and spending that time and doing that work, right? Whether or not the kids completely understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish, right? We have to continue to pretty much, I guess, just to fill our function, right, in the house, because it's a role that's unique to us, right, as men, and so it's incumbent upon us to fulfill it. What you're pouring into them is beautiful, and they represent you well, right? So you have to be commended, just setting incredible examples, right? So thank you very much.
Honoring fatherhood, as well as the influence of fathers in our society. I hope you've been blessed like I have. I want you to stand by just for a few more minutes as Dr. Ivory Varner will be joined by Brother Charles Gooden Jr. as they summarize this awesome Father's Day special. And that's going to take place right after this message.
By the way, if you have any questions, concerns, or prayer requests, please call the 24/7 hotline. We encourage everyone to keep social distancing, stay home, and be safe. By the way, we love you and we miss you.
Charles, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
By the way, you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
I appreciate it.
In this experience that you just had, experiences create great memories. What did you glean? How are you blessed from hearing these men's journey?
It's always, I'm a big believer in the fact that, I don't know it all, right? And then I can be better by learning from people who are doing the same thing I am, and learning from their experiences. So it has been, there was some very open, transparent conversations here, right? And so we're all trying to achieve the same goal. We're all trying to rear God-fearing children who can go out into the world and be successful, right? And so hearing about their discipline tools and how they approach relationships with their kids, and their daughters and their sons, and learning about how they understand, all of the kids are all, unique in how they approach that. I mean, it's helped me to become a better father, right? I've gotten to be, just here in this afternoon, I'm gonna be a better father when I go home to my kids. So that's how I've been blessed. It's really been wonderful.
That's great. That's great. And then to make it happen during this pandemic.
Right.
Right. Anything special that you got out of this doing this pandemic?
We have been, like, our family, our kids they're in track, right? And track requires you to be together a lot.
Yeah.
You travel, you move around, and you're all over the place, right? But that all stopped, right? And so all of that time when we would be out on the road here or there, we were at the house together, right? And we have had so much fun with each other.
Wow.
It's been incredible, right? I actually thought that, this has been, we've gotten blessings out of it, right?
Yes.
I talked to my son who's 13, he's running nationals and all this kind of stuff. And I said, man, well, do you miss track? And he said, no, I was okay. A break is good, right? And just being able to be around each other, learn more about each other. We went through the whole homeschooling thing, which is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And we got through that, and we're closer now.
Yeah.
We're much closer now, and that's what we've gotten out of the pandemic. Just being around each other has been a huge blessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. My last question.
Yes, sir.
Have you enriched your family, or have your family enriched you?
I would say they have enriched me.
Yeah.
One of the things I have, like I said, I'm really close with my kids, right? And my wife, right? We're all very, emotionally close, physically close, intimate relationships. And so they've enriched me by pointing out, hey, Dad, that response or that action was a little different than what you would expect from me, right? And so, and so they've helped me to kind of pay attention. Like I said, one of the biggest challenges I have is the consistency, modeling the behaviors that I want them to model, right? So they've definitely blessed me, and I think that I have blessed them because, we're not in the track season. Things have slowed down a little bit. So I've got more energy to do, dad stuff, right? My son and I have been playing a whole lot of basketball, right? Wow. And, I've been at the house. I've been able to be on the grill, right? We've been playing games. So I've been able to bless them, with just the extra energy and the extra time in some cases. Yeah. And I think my wife would say the same thing. It's been a wonderful experience to be able to pour back in to the family. Yeah.
Charles, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Pastor.
So much.
I appreciate it.
This has been a great experience.
Yes, sir.
This is something we've never done before. And by the way, I want to thank you. This is not our normal Father's Day service, but it's been a rich Father's Day service. I've gotten a lot out of just listening to the men and where they are, and they're committed to Jesus Christ, and they're committed to the family. And we thank you for being a part of our family. And so we pray that you keep praying for all fathers, that all fathers would be the ideal father that God had intended for them to be, and keep encouraging them, because being a father is not easy at all. So thank you for being with us today. Amen.